catching a virus to stay well. And I won't be before you very long, I promise. Virus is something that spreads and it progresses over time. It infects and affects everything that it touches. Now, we know about computer viruses. It eats into the mainframe. I had one. And a friend of mine, her husband is a software engineer. He had to take my computer and actually manually remove. It had just eaten all through. Viruses go in and eat up stuff. And it eats away at any substance. In the human body, we have viruses that attack us, and they're just outer things trying to get in. And it's amazing how we were made. Our bodies were made to protect itself. And we've been given certain immune qualities in our blood. But we have a 24-hour virus, sometimes a 3-day, which is a 72-hour virus. And one thing about viruses, they can be contagious. They have, they're stomach viruses. They attack the digestive system. But the virus I want to talk to you today about is, this virus is a good one. This is the kind you need to catch in order to stay well. In order to stay well, you need to catch this. And this is also contagious. This is called PTV, which is the positive thought virus. All right? Positive thought virus. Now, regular viruses, you need a prescription to get rid of it. But this PTV, this positive thought virus, you need a prescription to catch it. And it's written. It's called Holy Word. There is a written prescription already for you to catch this virus. And so this one is just a little bit different. The positive thought virus in the 21st century is not only good to have, but it's vital. What's happening today, it's necessary to survive. We're living in a turbulent time. And see, I'm just 53, I'll be 54 in June. And I don't know about you, but since the time I was a kid, this is not America that I knew when I was a kid. I mean, where children respected adults and speak, don't talk back to your elder. Kids will cuss you out now, spit on you or whatever, and dare you to do something. And years ago, you know, children, if they got out of order, they were put in line. Now they can sue you. Now they can call 911. And so my sister, her son told her, she said, I'm going to get you. He said, I'm going to call 911. She handed him the phone. She said, here. She said, but when they get here, it'd be too late. So she told him it'll be too late. And she told him, and when they take me away, she said, you may as well stay with them. She said, because they're going to take me away again. And so he didn't try that because she wanted to correct him. So she said, either I get you now, she said, or the police will beat you up later on. And I'm thankful my sister raised 4 children who have good records and they're high school graduates and they're doing well. But I'm watching unfold today. Stuff that I had been told as a child is coming up on the world. I'm watching it happen. I'm looking at the news. I never thought I would live to see these times. You know, you always heard about it, but I'm seeing what's happening. When you look at the Middle East, you hear about nation rising against nation, kingdom against kingdom. It's happening. And even in the weather patterns, we're having record heat, record cold, record snow, record rain. Everything is record, never seen before. And in this social climate, the victims are younger and the perpetrators are getting younger and younger. You need this PTV virus to survive today. Positive thought virus is necessary. There's mass destruction of life with no conscience, mass shootings, and attempted bombings. You know, the bomb plots that were foiled. There are some that were foiled they never told us about. They know what we can handle and what we can't. And then we think about, well, what about the one that isn't foiled? In Luke, the Bible, Luke 21:26 says, men's hearts will be failing them for fear, for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Now, I heard that when I was a kid, but I'm like, it's happening. I'm watching it unfold. Signs in the earth. As I was a kid, I heard, in Acts about vapor, fire, and smoke. Well, what is that? Vapor, fire, and smoke. And when that was written, that was like in the Stone Ages. But in this nuclear age, we can very well identify vapor, fire, and smoke. It's like somebody back there knew something then. All right? So we need to catch this PTV in order to stay well emotionally, physically, financially, and spiritually. Why do you need to catch this virus? Because your thoughts begin a domino effect that affect every part of your life. You can think yourself sick, and you can think yourself well. You know what hypochondriacs are? They are people who are physically sound, but they sneeze and they shake and they hurt and they itch because their mind, their thought patterns has accepted. Once you get the PTV, it spreads and eats up a lot of that stuff. I'm telling you, I know from experience. Sometimes physical wellness requires the PTV virus. Cancer treatment centers, you know, you're talking about their high success rates. When people have been given a sentence over here, they go to the cancer treatment centers and they have higher success rates. And they said the reason is they incorporate positive thinking, thought process in their holistic healing. They incorporate that. Chemo plus high expectation of recovery. All right? So I'm a psych major. I'm glad as a psych major at UALR, we had to study the human brain, the central nervous system, the neurological dynamics that affect every aspect of our lives. And people who have MDD, which is major depressive disorder, it starts in the mind. It starts in the thoughts. And a lot of times heredity has a lot to do with it, the environmental, but eventually it becomes physical. So sometimes it has to be treated physically, all right? So worry and stress and anxiety and fear, it depletes something in the brain called neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters, serotonin and melatonin, are neurotransmitters that are there by nature. Serotonin is what makes you laugh at a joke when it's funny. But once that stress has depleted that, then the joke's not funny anymore. Nothing's funny. You don't laugh at anything. And you have constant sorrow. Once the melatonin is depleted, then the sleeplessness occurs. And once you lose the serotonin, you crawl into a deep hole. It's like you get in a deep hole. And people tell you, you need to snap out of it. Once you're in that hole, you can't snap out. Because physically, something is physically wrong. And a lot of times that's why there's such a stigma attached to these issues. It's because people don't understand there is a physical dynamic. All right? The Bible said God made the nighttime for sleeping. So I learned, through learning about the brain, that darkness triggers melatonin dump. Darkness dumps melatonin in your brain, and suddenly you get to yawn and stretch, and you think it's all the work you did that day. But if the melatonin is not there, you know, Michael Jackson, bless his heart, he was too rich to get treated because his medical records would have sold for a lot of money. But not being able to sleep was a major issue, no matter what he took. So he went to such measures because the body has to sleep. When that neurotransmitter is missing, it's a dangerous thing. All right, so the brain obeys the laws that are set in it. When melatonin is depleted, sleeplessness, the body loses mobility, the brain signals begin to malfunction, no energy, you don't feel like bathing, you don't feel like eating, you don't feel like being motivated to do anything. Hopelessness settles in. And sometimes it has to be treated physically because it's become physical. Then you get what's called a serotonin uptake inhibitor. What it does, it replenishes that chemical, that neurotransmitter that's missing. So it restores the balance back to the brain. Now, the reason I tell you about this PTV, Proverbs 23:9 in the Bible says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. I'm telling you, the power of thought is pretty powerful. As you think, so are you. So just like the law of gravity, the law of attraction, the law of karma, or reaping and sowing, there's laws in the brain and the central nervous system. And when those laws are violated, there's a repercussion. So you begin the thought process. You need the PTV. You need the positive thought virus. All right, so I'm going to give you another example, and then I'll quickly end what I'm saying. There was a woman that wanted to have a baby so bad, but something happened and she had to have a complete hysterectomy. Complete hysterectomy. She could not accept the fact that she couldn't conceive. So guess what? She started having morning sickness, nausea. She went through her stomach beginning to swell and tenderness and all of that. And I mean, after the night, I mean, even felt movement and different things happening. The mind is a powerful thing. They say mind over matter. Mind is invisible, matter is what you can see. I'm telling you, what's invisible determines everything you see. And what happened was, when the 9 months was up and the swelling went down and everything, of course she had to go into some intense psychotherapy. And I didn't find out the outcome of that. But I knew of another young girl that saw her parents murdered. And she went blind because she could not stand to see what she saw. She went completely blind. But while she was blind, she got into intense psychotherapy. And once she was able to grieve and process what happened, her sight began to come back. As a person thinks, so are they. Lots of physical illnesses start in the thought process. Now, in 2005, right before Christmas, I have shared this before, my little sister died. 2 months later, 2.5 months later, my 80-year-old mother was hit by a car, injured. 9 days after that, my father died while I was trying to graduate college. And I remember I was driving down the street. You know how we think we can just handle anything. But nobody's an island. And there you do have a breaking point. There's nothing wrong with having weaknesses and being vulnerable. You're human. I was driving down the street and all of a sudden my hand gripped the steering wheel. I started sweating and I didn't know whether to hold on to the steering wheel or let it go, and my chest started hurting. And so I got to my doctor's office and she examined. I knew I was having a heart attack. I knew I was. She examined me, and after she listened to me, because she knew what had happened and what I'd been through, she said, "June, sweetie, anxiety." I said, "No, doctor, it's not anxiety. I'm telling you how I feel." She said, "I know you're having physical symptoms." She said, "But this is triggered by anxiety." And she leaned in my ear. She said, "I don't want you to slip into depression." She saw what was happening. Physical manifestation of an internal emotional catastrophe. I was falling apart. And I'm telling you, the pieces were starting to scatter. And I needed a remedy to the madness that was taking place in my life. I'd already buried 5 brothers and already dealt with dysfunction at a high level. But I was trying to better myself going to school. So I didn't get to see a psychiatrist. I'm telling you, I was really serious about it. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think if you can talk to somebody, it's good. Didn't get to see a psychiatrist, but I did make an appointment. I made an appointment with the one who formed my brain and my mind and my central nervous system. Book of Isaiah said, "Before you were formed in the belly, I knew you." So I didn't have to fill out the questionnaire. There was no time. He already knew my family history and my medical history. And he allowed me to vent, and then he gave me a written prescription. Philippians 4 and chapter 4 and verse 8. "Finally, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are honest, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things." And then I was told, follow the prescription and take it. You know how they tell you, take it till it's all gone. Take it until all the stress, all the confusion, all the disorder, all the fear, the anxiety, take it until it's gone. Think on these things. You know, I had to read, and that's why I love the Bible stories, because Apostle Paul was sitting in prison, had been beat up and falsely accused, and he was talking to the king Agrippa, and king said to him, "You know, I'm in charge here." Paul looked at him and said, "King, I think myself happy." He's in lockdown for something he didn't do, no wrong. He said, "But I'm not going to let my circumstances determine my thought patterns. I'm going to let my thought patterns determine my circumstances." He says, "I think myself happy." You need the PTV virus in the time of stress, trauma, drama, trouble. This virus helps you to stay well. And you need that written prescription. You know, federal government forbids sharing your prescription with anybody. Remix. This is just the opposite. You are encouraged to share with everybody that wants it. It's highly contagious. Positive people, they create positive people. Have you ever heard of restricted airspace? Over the White House, there's restricted airspace. And if you try to fly there, they have jets out there ready to scramble. And if you come within so many feet or so many yards or miles of that airspace, you're asked to identify yourself. And if you're not authorized, they have orders to shoot you out of the sky. And so I'm from Kentucky, and our governor trying to be a big shot. I think it's 2005 or 6 or whatever. And he going to fly in, but his radio wasn't working. And so when they asked him to identify himself, his radio, he couldn't say anything. They said, we're asking you for the last time. But somehow somebody on the ground knew it was his plane, so they let him safely land. Needless to say, when he landed, he had to change his shorts, okay? But I heard somebody say, you can't stop the birds from flying over your head, but you can keep them from nesting in your hair. But I'm telling you, I got RAS. I got restricted airspace around my mind. You hear what I'm saying? And it's only reserved for whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are lovely. That's what it's reserved for. So in 2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 5, it says, casting down imaginations. I've got authority to cast that. Those are thoughts. And in other words, you coming and you're not the right kind of thought, I give you 10 seconds to identify yourself. And if you're unauthorized, you're coming down. And then it said, casting down imaginations, everything that challenges the knowledge of God. That means anything that's not in your prescription. If it challenges that. Then it says, bringing into captivity every thought unto the obedience of Christ. That means I not only can cast you down, I can take you hostage. I can put you in handcuffs and take you down. So the symptoms of a virus, I'm telling you, I got RAS, restricted airspace, around my thoughts. I have to, because how I was raised, I am susceptible. My mother was carrying me. I was a 12th child. So she was depressed. I am susceptible to depression, anxiety, and all that. She transferred that to me. I had nothing to do with that. And so since I am vulnerable and susceptible, I got to have that restricted. Because it can come in, you can't keep the birds from flying over your head. What if they're vultures? They're giving a bad sign if vultures are flying. So you're not even going to intimidate me. So I get permission to bring you down and take you into captivity. Now, I'm almost finished. Now, symptoms of a virus is regurgitating. You know that. And it's a good thing to, just like this PTV, it'll cause you to bring some stuff up that's been needing to come up. Ugly stuff a long time ago. And also one thing is good about this virus, a fever comes with it. You know what a fever, the higher it gets, the more it impacts you. And once it's at 103, you're in trouble because your brain cells are beginning to cook. But this one is the same but not the same. It's heat, but it's not the kind that'll cook your brain. This is refining heat. The hotter it gets, the higher the fever gets, the more it's burning out those things that were clogging up your thought process. The more it's burning out impurities. It's refining heat. And I don't know about you, but I feel a fever coming on. It's getting hot in here. And I invite the fever to come and burn up everything that's been limiting my potential. I want to catch the PTV because I want to be an overcomer. I invite the PTV, the positive thought virus, to invade my mainframe. It can come in and eat up anything. And I need to catch this virus in order to stay well. I caught it to stay well. Thank you.